Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for my rational perspective, or as rational as I can be after that, for Leicester 2, Chelsea 0. It just gets worse for Frank Lampard at the moment. I feel I'll be dishonest if I don't say what I'm feeling and thinking, because I think it's probably what a lot of Chelsea fans instinctively are thinking tonight. Is that the end of Lampard's reign? Because it was another new low. In some ways, it felt very similar to the defeats to Arsenal and Man City. And shades of performances we've seen pretty consistently now since the Everton game. It's painful, isn't it? It's painful to think about Lampard leaving. It's painful to consider that. But I think it's the realistic nature of the modern game. And despite my sort of resistance to it, or sort of my belief that I'm never going to call for a manager's head, you have to look at performances. And performances have been terrible. 2-0 really does flatter Chelsea tonight. I feel there's a striking parallel. My mate Louis Benavente texted me after this game and talked about Leicester in 2015, which I was thinking during the game. I was at Leicester in 2015 when they beat us 2-1. If you remember, that was Jose Mourinho's last game as Chelsea manager, the last time Chelsea sacked a manager mid-season. And it could be quite a striking parallel if this does turn out to be Lampard's last game, because it was hopeless. It really was. The worst thing for me was that, and I felt this after the first goal went in, so this is not me saying it in hindsight. I looked at the first goal, and seeing the way we changed after that first goal, I felt that the players' heads went after 6 minutes after that first goal went in. And nothing changed after that. It looked like for the first 5 minutes, we had a plan of trying to get the ball to Christian Pulisic in behind the defence, using the passing quality from deep of Antonio Rudiger and Thiago Silva. Other than that, I wasn't quite sure what Chelsea were trying to do. And that's a big issue. And it's been a consistent issue. There are other consistent issues in the team. I was baffled mainly by Frank Lampard's midfield, playing Mateo Kovacic as a DM, something he hasn't done before, whilst you've got Billy Gilmore, a player who he relied on at a major point last season at DM. It just confused me at a time when people are asking Lampard to take risks and maybe be bold and sort of, try and get some attacking sort of flair and fluidity back into this team. We wanted to see Callum Hudson-Odoi, so he was starting as well. I wanted to see Kai Havertz start. He was starting as well. So I can't turn around and go, you shouldn't have played him, you shouldn't have played him. That's what I wanted. But playing Cover at DM, it just felt really confusing to me, when last season, maybe Lampard felt more free to make those decisions. It's just a little bit weird to me. And there have been weird decisions selection-wise that Frank has made a few times now. When I watch him take a while to make subs, not making subs at half time, when I'm watching a game and I can only see Leicester scoring more goals, they score a second before half time, it just confuses me even more. And it feels like I can't deny what I'm seeing on the pitch, and it does feel like endgame, doesn't it? And I hate to say that. I can tell you right now, as you can see a picture behind me of Frank Lampard, I adore this guy. He's my hero. He's been a massive influence in my life. And we all wanted to see it succeed, but I'd be very dishonest if I came on camera tonight and spoke to you and tried to make out like there aren't major problems at the moment, that I'm not seeing flat, lifeless performances consistently over and over. I do want to get into some positives, and I know, crazy, right? There are some positives from this game, or at least some that I can take. Just players that I want to credit tonight that I do think can walk out of tonight's game with some credit in the bank. Edouard Mendy, I felt, made a couple big saves, trying to keep the score down, to be honest. I know Vardy probably would have been offside if it went in, but I felt he coped with that one-on-one situation very well, and a save from Tielemans in the second half as well. So I felt that, Mendy deserves credit for that. Mason Mount is a credit to Chelsea Football Club. He really is. He works his socks off week in, week out, game in, game out. He's rightly the first name on this team sheet. I think in a difficult period, he should be the first name on your team sheet, because he is on mine at the moment. When times have got tough, he hasn't stepped down. He hasn't sort of shirked responsibility. He's getting annoyed with other players, other senior players around him who aren't taking responsibility at a critical moment. He just is, and I think it's just absolutely a tragedy. I see disrespect for this guy on social media because he's incredible. He really is. And Christian Pulisic, I felt, tried to do a lot on his own, a bit like the Arsenal game at times, trying to make things happen. But at least he showed that energy there. And I felt Timo Werner looked okay in that 4-2-2-2 formation that Frank switched to late on. But other than that, I mean, that's trying to sort of find anything tonight, because really the damning picture, 2-0 makes it look like a close game. 2-0, if you watch the highlights, if you watch the demeanour, the mood and flow of that game, for a large period of the second half, I was almost in a trance. I was watching the game, but I was sort of zoned out of it emotionally because I was already thinking about tomorrow. I was already thinking about the repercussions of this result. I've got to be honest, when I'm hearing stuff like when, not if, in terms of Lampard's job before tonight's game, I think you do reach a point of no return. Now, I want to make this abundantly clear. That's not my position on the manager. But when I'm hearing stuff like that, I think if the game becomes, like singular games become sort of referendums on managers, and then I see performances like that, it concerns me what's going on behind the scenes that maybe we don't know. And it was just such a lifeless performance, and you do need to look to the coach. I think it's dishonest if you don't ask serious questions. Questions like, despite him having a decent game against Fulham, Antonio Rudiger being basically an outcast in the summer, on the verge of being sold. He came in against Krasnodar, he came in some of those Champions League games, but Frank seemed to settle on Kurt Zouma and Thiago Silva, and now suddenly Zuma's not in the starting 11. It's just confusing to me, especially against Leicester, just tactically going into this game. Leicester, a bit like Chelsea, struggle at dealing with set pieces, and we saw it tonight. The few times Chelsea got close to scoring was from set pieces. It's just strange to me with the delivery we have from Mason Mount that we don't have Kurt Zouma on the pitch, and I just think Zuma's our second best defender behind Thiago Silva, and those two working together, it made no sense. I mean, it doesn't help as well. I thought Reece James, Ben Chilwell had really poor nights. So once again, you don't want to scapegoat players, because I think that it's very easy to look at individual players tonight and go, they're the reason we lost this game. I think that's too simplistic, because I'm seeing similar things, similar trends, us being done on transition, us not looking very fluid in attack, us having a lack of confidence. This confidence in this team has just been shot. Since that Everton game, it's just been downward. Even the West Ham game, you look back at that game, there were worrying signs in that game. At the time, I felt it could be a good result for Chelsea to win when we're not playing well. But that's not been the trend. That game, the Morecambe game as well, it's an anomaly in Chelsea's recent form. It's been a downward trend despite winning at Fulham. There were really worrying signs against Fulham too. But, 10 men, we dominated most of the second half. But we come up against a decent side in Leicester and we get done. And Leicester weren't even at their best tonight. It could have been much worse. I think the thing on top of that you have to address from last season, when expectations were lower, in the big games, this is a point that's going to keep on being brought up, but it's true. If we want to see progression in this team, in big games last season, we were pretty decent. Even when we lost games, we would lose them narrowly to the likes of Man City and Liverpool. Because Chelsea, it felt like even if we'd done maybe by naivety or sort of defensive lapses, or the other team being really good, just a little bit better than us on a day like Liverpool, like Man City, you felt there was progression there, and you felt like Chelsea could land blows against bigger teams. Not anymore. We are being so passive in these games now. Not even like the Tottenham game a few months back, where at the time I felt like that was a decent point, but that was more of a tactical game where it was like both teams seeing each other out, ruling each other out. Now Chelsea are just not offering anything in these games. They don't look like they're close to Leicester, and that's just ridiculous given the summer spend we had. There's got to be more progression in this team, and I think the fact that with lesser players last season, with less expectation, we got some amazing performances and results against the likes of Liverpool, against the likes of Man City. We got to an FA Cup final. I'm not seeing that same progression now with better players, or at least we felt better players. I know they're better players. I know that these players have lots of talent within them, like the ones we brought in, because I saw it earlier in the season. So I don't want to hear anything that these players, all of them are flops and they'll never be good for Chelsea FC. That's not the point I'm making. I just think it's very easy to look past last season. But when I look to last season, that's naturally what I'm thinking about at the moment. And I'm seeing us against Leicester last season. We're now starting to, if you were to do like sort of a comparison of results of sort of gaining points and dropping points from last season, we're massively down now in terms of where we are. And it's just, against a top four rival, against a team that had a massive knockback at the end of last season, but has progressed, has had continuity, looks to be getting better, was better than Chelsea in every aspect tonight, defensively, in midfield, offensively as well. And it just doesn't look good on the manager. And I think all of us are thinking the same thing. Will something happen? I mean, the point I've made before, right, is that Maurizio Sarri and Antonio Conte had very shambolic runs and nothing happened to them. But I feel that you can't see much improvement at the moment, and I can take losing games narrowly if I see signs of progression, or at least I see signs that, there's something going on there. Maybe we're just a little bit out in terms of maybe cohesion or some maybe chemistry. When I'm seeing lifeless performances where I feel like the players are sort of, and it's an extreme term, it's a simplistic term. In some ways, it's a very lazy term, but basically downing tools after 6 minutes. I felt mentally shot. I'm seeing players be so passive in possession, a lot of them, with the exception of the likes of Mason Mount and Christian Pulisic, just sort of shirking responsibility. I don't think that represents Lampard's team very well. Lampard speaks a lot in his press conferences and post-match interviews about non-negotiables. He talks about fight. He talks about spirit. I'm not seeing that within his team. I speak about him demanding the players to move the ball faster. I don't see that anymore. Everything that was working earlier in the season is not there anymore. The defensive improvement, the sense of balance in midfield. Yes, we haven't got N'Golo Kante tonight, but we had Kante for Arsenal and City, and we saw some pretty dreadful performances there. So I don't think that's a good enough excuse. Young players being sort of at the basis of last season's team, like Billy Gilmore, and we're not seeing that now when Lampard had the opportunity to use him. I don't know where we go from here, to be honest. And I feel like I said that after Arsenal. I feel like I said that after Man City. It's very hard to see. I think just that my gut feeling is, and I may be absolutely proven wrong, and I hope that I am proven wrong, and Lampard can prove us all wrong at the moment, and I'm sure that's what he's feeling. I just feel like the team looks lost at the moment, and I can't see how it's going to drastically improve enough for us to compete with the biggest teams, for us to get into that top four race. It's not only about competing for the title anymore, it's about getting into that top four. And given that the points tally is not that far away, could be seen as, giving Lampard more time, but could also be seen in another aspect as well. And given the fact we spent so much too, just a lifeless performance. And I know all you guys in the comments will vent, rightly so. We'll have to see where Chelsea go from here. It's a terrible night. I hope you guys are doing well, even in the current sort of pandemic and lockdown. Chelsea aren't really helping things at the moment, are they? But I'll be here to talk about Chelsea tomorrow. We'll be reflecting more on the game and latest news as well. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Do me a favour by hitting that like button as well, just to cheer me up a little bit tonight. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.